The atmospheric shuttle descended through Kepler 442b's ionosphere with the kind of turbulence that made Alexander's teeth rattle. He gripped the armrest of his delivery pod, watching the purple-tinged clouds part to reveal the crystalline spires of the Zenari capital below. 23 light-years from Earth, and he was still just a courier. Package 77 Alpha cleared for landing at the Grand Luminarium, the docking AI announced in its sterile monotone. Recipient, Princess Orla Val Zenith. Contents, classified diplomatic material, time-sensitive delivery. Alexander had transporting everything from terraforming equipment to frozen embryos, but diplomatic packages to alien royalty during what his briefing called the most significant wedding ceremony in Zenari history was a first. The pay was extraordinary, enough to finally upgrade his ship's antiquated FTL drive. He couldn't afford questions. The pod settled onto a landing platform that seemed to be made of solidified light. Through the viewport, Alexander could see thousands of beings gathered in the plaza below, not just Zenari with their distinctive bioluminescent skin patterns and triple-jointed limbs, but representatives from dozens of species. The Confederation Summit Wedding, they called it, a political union designed to forge peace across 3 sectors. He gathered the temperature-controlled case, surprisingly light for something so important, and stepped onto the platform. Immediately, a security detail materialized around him. The Zenari guards were imposing, nearly 7 feet tall, their skin shifting through colors that Alexander's limited xenobiology training told him indicated high alert. Alexander Chen, Earth Courier Service. The lead guard's translator rendered her clicking speech into flat English. Follow precisely. The ceremony begins in 23 minutes. The princess is awaiting this package personally. They moved through corridors that defied physics, walls that curved without corners, gravity that shifted orientation every few meters. Alexander had to consciously suppress his nausea. The architectural style was pure Zenari, form following function, following some mathematical principle humanity hadn't yet grasped. They arrived at what is neural implant, translated as the preparation chamber of the ascending. The guards parted, and Alexander found himself facing a woman who made his breath catch. Orla Val Zenith stood before a mirror of flowing mercury, but she wasn't looking at her reflection. Her skin, a Zenari characteristic he'd read about but never witnessed in person, rippled with patterns of gold and deep blue, the colors of her house. But unlike full-blooded Zenari, her features showed human influence. Hybrid, his mind registered, rare and politically complicated. "You're punctual," she said in perfect, unaccented English. No translator. "I appreciate punctuality when my entire future is being decided in." She glanced at a holographic display. 21 minutes. Alexander extended the case. "Your package, Your Highness. Signature required." Orla took it but didn't open it. Instead, she studied him with eyes that were disturbingly human in her otherwise alien face. "Do you know what's in here, Alexander Chen?" "No, ma'am. I'm just the courier." "It's called a recursive certainty engine. Banned technology on 47 worlds." She set the case on a table that materialized from the floor. "It analyzes probability matrices and collapses them into singular outcomes. Point it at a quantum event, and it tells you definitively what will happen." Alexander's hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm, standard for couriers in contested space. "I don't transport illegal tech. My manifest said diplomatic materials." "Oh, it is diplomatic." Orla's skin patterns shifted to something his implant couldn't translate, humor maybe, or bitter resignation. "My father, the Emperor, sent it so I could see the outcome of this wedding, so I could know with certainty whether marrying Kalthos Val Crimson will bring peace or war." And Alexander didn't know why he asked. It wasn't his business. "I haven't used it yet." She moved to the window, where the plaza below teemed with dignitaries and their entourages. "That's the paradox, isn't it? The moment I use it to see the future, I collapse all other possibilities. Free will becomes a fiction." Alexander had delivered packages to war zones and quarantine planets, He'd been shot at, irradiated, and once nearly dissolved by methane rain. But he'd never been asked to witness someone's existential crisis. Then don't use it. You don't understand Zenari politics or hybrid politics. Her voice carried generations of weariness. I'm the bridge between two species, two cultures. My marriage to Kalthos unites the Zenari houses and brings human colonies into the Confederation. But if I choose wrong, if I marry for politics instead of, she stopped. It doesn't matter. The numbers matter. The outcomes matter. A chime resonated through the chamber. 15 minutes. Why did you really accept this job? Orla turned to face him. Your former military, colonial marines, intelligence division. Your record is sealed, but I have resources. You could be doing high security transport, not running packages for diplomatic ceremonies. Alexander felt exposed. That life ended badly. I prefer simple now. Nothing is simple. Orla opened the case. Inside, nestled in quantum foam, sat a device no larger than a human heart. It pulsed with inner light, each beat showing mathematical formulae that scrolled across its surface too fast to read. My mother was human. Did you know that? A xenoanthropologist who fell in love with an emperor. She died when I was 7, political assassination made to look like a reactor failure. That's when I learned that love and politics are fundamentally incompatible in my world. She reached for the device. Don't, Alexander said. Orla's hand froze. Why not? Because I did something similar once. Not with banned tech, but with certainty. I knew an operation would fail. I had the intelligence, the probability matrices. I went anyway because the math said we had to try. 37 people died. I survived because I followed the numbers instead of my instinct. He'd never told anyone this. Certainty doesn't account for the variables that matter: courage, love, the irrational human element that makes impossible things possible. I'm only half human, Orla said softly. The half that matters right now. She stared at the device, her skin patterns cycling through colors that might have been contemplation or conflict. Then, with deliberate care, she closed the case. I need a cavalier, she said abruptly. What? Zenari tradition. At a wedding ceremony, the bride must be accompanied by someone who represents her freedom to choose. A cavalier, a champion who serves only her will, not the states, not the houses, not the confederations. Someone who has no stake in the political outcome. Alexander understood before she finished. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Alexander Chen, will you be my cavalier? Orla's skin patterns shifted to solid gold. Sincerity, his implant, informed him. Stand with me as I walk to that ceremony. Not as a soldier following orders, not as a courier completing a delivery, but as someone who represents the possibility that I might still have a choice. Every instinct told him to refuse. He was a courier. He delivered packages. He didn't get involved. But he looked at Orla, half human, half alien, wholly alone, and saw something of himself. Someone trying to find meaning after certainty had failed them. What do I have to do? Relief flooded her features. Just stand beside me. In Zenari tradition, if I decide I cannot go through with the marriage, I turn to my cavalier. You then have the right to remove me from the ceremony, and no one, not even the emperor, can stop you without declaring vendetta against you personally. That seems like a significant political risk for your father. It is. That's why cavaliers are usually family members or trusted house guards, never strangers, never humans. She smiled, and it was entirely human. Never couriers who know about refusing certainty. The final chime sounded. Time. Alexander offered his arm. Then we should go. Your future is waiting. They walked through corridors lined with witnesses from 100 worlds. Alexander wore his courier uniform, plain grey, utterly unremarkable, beside Orla's ceremonial robes that seemed woven from starlight. He could feel the confusion, the scandal rippling through the crowd. A human cavalier, unprecedented. At the altar, a raised platform of quantum-locked particles, Kalthos Val crimson weighted. He was impressive even by Zenari standards. his skin patterns sharp and martial. But Alexander noticed how his eyes tracked Orla with something that might have been genuine feeling beneath the political necessity. The ceremony began in the Zenari sacred language, words that bypassed translation and resonated in the chest. Alexander felt Orla's hand tighten on his arm. Then midway through the vows, she paused, turned to Alexander. The plaza went silent. Thousands of beings held their breath. Orla looked at him with those hybrid eyes, searching for something. Permission, validation, or perhaps just the reminder that choosing was still possible. Alexander waited. He didn't nod, didn't speak. This was her moment, her freedom, her choice. After an eternity compressed into heartbeats, Orla smiled, small, private, entirely her own, and turned back to Kalthos. She completed her vows. The ceremony concluded with stellar fireworks that painted the purple sky in colors humanity had no names for. Alexander stood beside Orla as tradition dictated, until she released his arm and took Kalthos's hand instead. "Thank you," she whispered, for his ears only, "for reminding me that uncertainty is a gift." Alexander bowed and withdrew, just another courier completing a delivery. As his shuttle lifted off hours later, his account showed the contracted payment plus an addition that made his eyes widen. Enough to buy a new ship, not just upgrade his old one. The message attached was simple. For the cavalier who understood that the most valuable delivery isn't certainty, but choice. Alexander smiled and set course for home, carrying nothing but the satisfaction of having delivered something that actually mattered. Below, on Kepler 442b, Princess Orla Valzenith began her new life, not bound by certainty, but freed by the possibility that some futures were worth choosing without knowing their ending. The end.